Hello, welcome back. Today we're diving into something tender, something that might make your heart flutter a little, because today we're talking about loving yourself. And I'm not talking about let's come up with a glittery, polished affirmation of self-love and just hoping that it sticks. But I'm talking about the real, maybe even messy. Let's get to the root of this way of loving yourself. Because here's what I want to explore with you, and that's going to be my first question for you. Have you ever considered that if you do struggle with loving yourself, have you considered that maybe it's because you don't know yourself so well? It doesn't matter how old you are, but have you considered that the real you beneath all those layers, have you really taken the time to get to know that person? I'm also wondering, what if let's say you feel disconnected, or if you feel ashamed of some parts of you? Could it be because you've been introduced to a version of yourself that actually isn't the real you? Is it a you that feels authentic, or is it rather shaped by other people's expectations of you, by old stories, by the noise of the world, but not the real you? So today I want to invite you to explore that with me. I want to know the mission of you. I want to know the blueprint of you. And I want you to consider that getting to know the real you is not just like a self-development fluff, but it's the foundation of a real and unshakable self-love and self-confidence. You might have heard that recently. I certainly have. But there's this concept to really imagine that the day you were born, imagine that it's a bit like if you were handed the sacred assignment, a little note that said, your job is to care for that person. The body, the spirit, the emotions, everything. And for your entire life, this is yours to nurture. How would you treat that person differently? And if you're a parent or a caretaker, you might relate to when you had your baby. When your baby was first born, didn't you feel that way? Didn't you feel that a new mission started for you? That you would have to do all what it takes with all the love that you have to look after that newborn, that human being. And for sure, you wouldn't ignore when the baby cried, you wouldn't ignore their needs, you wouldn't ignore all the cues. You would even try to get to understand, read books, ask for advice, tune into that part of you that's nurturing, that's loving. Even if it's the first time that you're doing this, you would have this inner knowing that it's possible, and you might not know exactly how, but you know that it comes from this willingness that's so strongly rooted in you that you know you'll find a way no matter what, right? And with this, you wouldn't shame their joy. You wouldn't shame their needs. You wouldn't shame their insecurities, but you studied them, right? You'll learn their rhythms, what lights them up, what makes them crumble, all of it. You'll get curious. So you can see it that way. You are that baby. And somewhere along the line, maybe you forgot. Maybe you started treating yourself like a problem to fix rather than a person to know. And that's where we begin with curiosity. Not with, how do I love myself? But rather with, who am I really? And I'd like to highlight this to you. And I'm pretty sure you know that already, but you're not just one thing, that one person as a block. You are so many layers. You might be familiar with the different type of bodies that you do carry, that you do embody. Your physical body, the home that you live in, the way that it moves, the way that it rests, the way that it speaks. Then you have your energetic body, the vibes that you carry and the intuition that you know and experience. And then you have your emotional body with the ups and downs sometimes, with the storms and the stillness, with the highs and the lows. You have your spiritual body as well, the soul deep knowing that is always there, no matter what you do. And no matter how the other bodies are doing. This is always there on top of the rest. It doesn't matter what faith or what it is that you believe in. We are spiritual beings, all of us. But when you don't know these layers, when you are feeling disconnected, it's like trying to love a stranger. Have you ever tried to do this? When you explore them, that's when like the love affair can start and more. Which brings me to your blueprint. Your blueprint is your default setting. It's how you're wired, what fills your cup and what drains you. It's your triggers and your joy, the way that you process life. And most of us, we are not taught how to study this. We are taught to override it because we are often fed or shown a model that I don't even know where they came from, to be honest, but we are given a model to follow for different reasons. One sometimes is to keep order, and whatever other reason might feed those models. Have you ever taken the time to consider, is it outdated? Does it apply to me? Do I relate to that deeply? Or do I understand that there's a time and space to follow certain rules, but there's also a huge importance into tuning in with what's beneath that. And I'm pretty sure that those models that we've been taught, you have a good understanding. You have a good understanding on what are common standards in our life. How does a woman need to behave? What does success look like? And I'm just taking this general approach and this very mainstream and sometimes outdated version of the things that we believe and that we still believe. Part, I'm pretty sure you understand, but do you understand what's under that? Do you understand yourself? And if not, how are you going to love yourself? How? It's a bit like if you're in a relationship, or if you're not at the moment, but you've been in a relationship before, those where there's been love. How was it for you? Did you get to love the person first, then get to know the person, or get to know the person, then love that person? Now, okay, that example doesn't really apply to the full spectrum, because while you get to understand someone that's not you, you might realize that we want different things. We're so different, and therefore maybe we part ways. But at the beginning, there might be that spark and that excitement. But this, we know, doesn't last forever, or it transforms into something else. What makes it last is the love that you build for a person because you get to know that person, right? And so just to get started in this concept of getting to understand yourself, to love yourself, I'd love to invite you to do these two things. The first one would be to be very, very loud about the things that you love about yourself. And I'm sure there are, whether they're very obvious to you, whether you've been thinking that it's actually not okay to be proud of myself, it's not okay to love myself, it's not okay to think that I'm great in some ways because I haven't been raised that way, I have to keep it low. Now is the time to really step into the love that you already have for yourself and be super loud about that. What is it that you love about yourself? Any qualities about you that you do know, that people perhaps already recognize, and when they're celebrated, you feel either very comfortable or uncomfortable because you haven't allowed yourself to see them in that big light. Now is your time. Now is your time to shine. And even if they seem silly, it could be as simple as the way that you smile, the way that you laugh, the way that you move. It could be your thoughtfulness. It could be you being a caring person. It could be you being kind. It could be you being fun. It could be you being smart. All of that, being committed, being fit, being eloquent, whatever it is, you know yourself to some extent a lot better than anybody else. So what is it? Go ahead, make a list or just celebrate it. And remember that there's nothing wrong to love yourself for who you are. And there's nothing wrong for being proud of that. And there's a big difference between being proud of who you are and being braggy. We might get to that in another episode, but today is just about loving yourself, getting to know you, and reinforcing what you already know about yourself, but didn't allow yourself to really look at. in a clear light. Now, the second thing I'd like to invite you to explore is to be curious about what brings you shame. And shame is such a huge topic in my coaching, at least because we do all have experienced shame at different levels. We'll get into the specifics maybe another time, or if you're interested and curious, I'm a feminine embodiment coach, and one of the things that I love to do is bring my client to self-discover, to really get to discover themselves in a different way, to connect with their essence and to live without apology, to be proud of who they are and to live a life that excites them. That's really a summary of what my work is about. And in order to access that, there's going to be a part of looking at the reality of what has been driving you to live the way that you've been living. And one part of it is not allowing yourself certain things because you are either ashamed or guilty, sometimes both. So the shame component when it comes to loving yourself is so important. And I could give you an example, like for myself, I could be ashamed of a lot of things. I grew up in a multicultural house, which today, and for a long time, I knew was a strength and a richness. But, I have been laughed at or made fun of as a kid, because kids sometimes it's not that they're cruel, but they can say stupid things that they don't even understand what they mean. But, kids sometimes just make fun as a mechanism to laugh about something that they don't know about, that maybe they're scared about or they don't relate to. And I could be ashamed of my heritage. I could be ashamed of certain parts of my body that maybe today I still want to work on, and I want them to feel stronger and leaner. I could feel ashamed of the extra fat that I carry on my body. I could feel ashamed about my French accent. Yeah, I could be ashamed about a lot of things about myself. And I'm not saying that there's a situation where I'm not, but what makes a big difference is to look at this in the eye and really ask yourself, what does that mean to me? I'm going to take my French accent, for example, that you can all hear. What my French accent means to a lot of people, I actually don't care. What it means to me is, yes, I am French. And what my accent is showing is that I'm committed to communicate in a language in which a lot of people can understand me and I can make myself understood. Yes, my English is not perfect, but I've been living in so many different countries for the past 15 years. I have so much exposure. I have met so many different people. I have friends from so many different countries. And I'm so fucking proud of my French accent, because it means that even though English is not my native language, I worked. I worked to get to a point where I can communicate in my personal life, in my professional life. I worked before in a different environment. I was all in English. And I really was great at what I was doing. So my French accent was never an issue for me to get where I wanted to get. So I'm fucking proud of it. If you don't like it, none of my problem, right? So this is what I'm talking about. Like, what are the things that to some extent you're ashamed about, and how can you turn things around in a way? And if you cannot turn things around, dig deeper. There's always going to be something interesting for you to explore to get closer to this power of knowing yourself. Getting to know yourself is the first step to me to loving yourself more. And it's really not about fixing. It's about meeting yourself. It's about even falling in love, with yourself. And I want to give you a mission this week is to study yourself. Study yourself like you're the most fascinating person you could ever meet. And with, let's say, to add a bit of my feminine embodiment vibe to it, of course, what I'm telling you is being in your head, being in your mind, because we're talking about thought, we're talking about mindset, and mindset work is great. I also, as you know, love to bring the wisdom of your body. So when you get to think about what brings you shame and what makes you proud, as you do those two things, I'd love for you to, if you're willing and open, take this moment to connect with your body. And as you are writing down, as you are thinking, feel it in your body. Feel what's happening. And again, it's not about fixing, it's just understanding when I'm thinking about that, or when I'm thinking that way about myself, I feel this in my body. Or when I'm thinking something, quite negative, or when I think about the shame that I carry, I feel like that in my body. And for today, we might not get into the details of that, but there is a lot of gold and richness in how your body is feeling, because it's telling you a lot. It's telling you a lot about what does feel good and what doesn't. Because at the end of the day, our role as human being is not to feel good all the time, because this would be setting ourselves up for failures to think that we can feel good all the time. But whenever we feel those darker emotions, there's always something to get out of that. And this is what it is to connect with your body. It's to allow you to explore that depth, to explore the highs, to explore the lows. Because the lower you're willing to get, the more excitement you will be able as well to bring when you are in the ups of your life. And so for me, what I have noticed and what I keep noticing is when you have this understanding about yourself, love is no longer something you need to force. It's something that happens naturally. And it's something that grows from the inside out, not so much from the outside in. All right. I hope that this speaks to you, that speaks to your heart, that it brings your curiosity up a notch, and that you'll be doing that. I don't like to call it an exercise so much, but just this exploration of noticing the difference between what you love already about yourself, what you don't love so much. How would you like it to evolve? How would you like it to change? And as usual, feel free to send me a note, send me a message on Instagram about any reflection you have around that topic. My handle there is joelle.smaniotto. I always love to read you. I always love to connect with you with anything related to wellness, with a non-bullshit approach, and with this non-judgmental approach as well. For me, one thing that's crucial is to understand that we are all different. We are all given a different set of challenges to work through in life, and we never know what our neighbor is going through. And if we don't understand them, or if we don't relate to them, that's absolutely fine. But there's this importance of just being attuned to this energy of caring. At least you are caring enough to just either let them be or bring some sort of support, or just say nothing at all and move on and focus on what you can focus on. All right, that's it for me today. I wish you a beautiful week, a beautiful day, a beautiful night, and I'll talk to you very soon in the next episode. All right, bye.